we've got this image here, baby fast asleep and mum's hand is there, and kind of you can't help but notice that we've got a bit of glitter here on the nails, and the sort of, like, you can see all the detail here, so it sort of does need a bit of a manicure. So let's clean this up in Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new empty layer. So it's this little icon here, looks like a piece of paper with a fold in it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up these nails, and I'm going to use layer masks and some clone tool and also the brush tool to edit these and then refine using layer masks. So the first thing I want to do is just come in with the clone stamp, and I'm going to have my mode set to normal. I'm going to make sure that my brush is sort of medium hardness, because you want to match your brush to the kind of edges that you have. So I want to try with maybe 25%. Opacity, I always set that to 100%, and I'm going to drop my flow down to about 10% as a starting point. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tackle these cuticles here as a start. So I might even just reduce my brush size, and I'll come in nice and tight so you can all see, and I'm just going to take care of these little bits here and just smooth those out. So what I'm going to do is actually just replace this area that you see here, right, with this area here. So I'm just transplanting pixels from here onto here and basically covering it up. And the way I'm doing it, it's going to look a bit rough now, but when we apply the layer mask, you can come in and apply the retouching with a bit more precision. So at this point, we're just getting the color down and the pixels on the area, and then I refine with a layer mask. So I'm holding down the Option or key on a Mac or Alt on a PC, doing a click select, and I'm just brushing over that area there just to get rid of those cuticles. All right. And just going around, selecting the area right next to it and brushing that color on. And it's a lot easier to do because you've got like the hand slightly out of focus. All right, and so anywhere where there's cuticles, I'm just brushing over there. So let's have a look. We've got before and after, and that's kind of taken care of that. We can now bring in the sort of the skin tone around the edge here. Just clean that up. So you can see why asking your client to get a manicure kind of helps, saves a lot of time. But if this is something that you want to have in your folio, then you probably want it to look a lot better. Okay, so we've cleaned that up, and I'll just repeat that with the others here. I won't do the glitter just now, but just coming in here and just cleaning that up there. This one isn't too bad. I'll just get rid of the sort of the skin. A bit of crusty skin here. All right. And now this one here, just cleaning up the crusty skin and just going around there. And pretty much just cloning over areas. You could also use the brush tool. And I'll show you how to do that in a sec. So, and once you get into it, you kind of start noticing every little defect. And so now she's kind of getting a whole, an entire hand, any little cracks. Oops. Just get rid of that one there. All right, so that's looking a bit better. Let's do where it starts to look a lot worse is where it's sharpest. So this is where it's hardest. So okay, so just taking a sample and brushing over, taking a sample and brushing over. And this is the kind of thing that you take your time with. Taking a sample, brushing over. And if you don't feel confident with the clone tool, what I like to use for skin retouching is I use the brush tool. And again, I'm selecting the Option key on a Mac, Alt on a PC, and I'm taking a sample of this skin here, and now I'm just going to brush the same color over the top. So this is a faster way to edit and even out skin tone, because I'm just placing the color over the top, and I think that this is a more effective way to do it, and just blending in the colors there. For this sort of editing, it works when you've got a brush hardness of 0. It's just a softer way, so just coming in and covering up that sort of the white cuticles there and replacing it with skin. And again, it's all on that empty layer, so I'll just show you. We've got before and after. All right, so just covered that over there. So that's looking much better there. And now finally, I might do this one as well, using this brush technique. Nice soft brush, adding in the pink there. All right. And just cleaning out and smoothing all the areas. It's like almost giving it a coat of polish now. All right, and that's all looking a lot neater than before. And then I'm going to come over and take care of this. And again, you're going to notice that it's quite rough that I'm doing it to start with, and then I'm going to refine it with the layer mask. So again, I've got my opacity 100%, flow 10%, and basically I've selected this color here right next to the glitter paint, glitter nail polish, made a selection, and I'm just brushing over. And I can build the color up just by increasing my flow, and basically what I'm doing is just giving her a manicure. And you'll notice that if you look at a nail, you'll notice that it's got the light part, then there's like a highlight, and then as it goes away from the light, it'll start to get darker. So when you're brushing on, you want to make sure that you repeat that as well. So if I just brush this one flat color, it's going to look slightly funny. So it won't look, it won't have the curve, it'll just look flat. So what I want to do is just make sure that I select from maybe the next nail. So maybe select a lighter color and place that somewhere near the middle. All right, and you'll see that it's quite rough the way I'm doing it. And you'll see in a sec how I refine that. And then next to that, I think this color here is too dark. So I'm going to find maybe a lighter color and apply that there. And you can also go into your color palette and just select a lighter color if you can't find one. I'm just going to go over this. This is a bit dark here. All right. So that's that. And then this part here, I want to have it slightly darker. So I'll find a darker tone here. And you can see in the foreground color, as I select the different ones, they change. So that's how you know what color you're painting with next. So I'm going to take one of the darker tones from this nail here, and that'll be this area here that I'm painting over. All right, and it doesn't matter too much if you can't stay within the lines. I just want to have the general tone here, because I can now refine it with the layer mask in the end. So it's kind of like a combination of painting and retouching combined. And just make sure that I've got the whites looking good. And I'll just increase that so it's a bit brighter. Give her a nice white cuticle, or whatever this bit's called. I think that's the term. Alright, so let's have a look. And just come in and clean up those edges as well. Alright, so you can see that I've missed some of the areas there, so I'm now going to focus on using the layer mask and just getting that looking a lot better. And I think I just want to improve this little highlight here, so I'll get a slightly softer brush. Alright, now I'm going to bring in a layer mask to just refine all of that editing that I've done. So it's this little icon here. I'm going to click on that, and what I'm going to do is invert that so it hides everything that I've done. So it's actually going to put it on an underneath layer. So that's Command I. Alright, so now everything that I've created is hidden. Alright, and what I can do is if I brush with white, I can now come in and bring back the edit, but just in the areas where I need it, so you can be a bit more precise. And just bring the edit back in slowly. So now I'm revealing everything that I previously did, but you can bring it in at like a lower opacity, and it kind of gives you a much more subtle retouch. So I'll just come in, I'll go over the cuticles. I know the areas that I've retouched. And I think this way you get a far more natural looking edit. So white reveals everything that we've just done, and so I'm just going over. I've got the opacity low, a high at 100% and flow at 10%, and I'm just going over everywhere that I've recently edited. And cleaning up those nails nicely. So let's have a look. We've got before and after. Gotten rid of the cuticles, cleaned them up. Okay, and then I'm going to come in to this one here, and I can just come in and just make my brush a little bit harder now, so that I make sure that I can get the edges looking a lot crisper with my edit. So I'm just coming in and brushing over the areas that I want to reveal my retouch. Now the beauty of this is, let's say I make a mistake and go over the line, and you can see how before when I edited it I was a bit rough. I can just change, either flick to black or use X. X will change your foreground background color. So when I'm in black, black will hide what's under there. So I can now erase that. And so you can just flick from black to white to either reveal or hide the editing that you've just done. And I can come in and continue to reveal that edit and bring in the nails and the cuticle, or whatever that front part is called. I think it's a cuticle. And now if I want to just come in and be a bit more accurate, I can make my brush a little bit smaller and just come in and focus on this part here. And just going over where I've edited the skin as well. All right, now I've gone back to black, so just bring that back again. Now if you wanted to, you can then come back and do some refining of that, but I think that starts to look pretty good. So you can see before and after, and I might just come in and create a new layer, and I just want to refine this a little bit more. Just clean up that edge. There isn't really a good edge on the nail. You can see how you can get really carried away here. Just cleaning that up a bit more, giving it a nice, sort of a nicer shape. Let's have a look there. All right, that's looking better. Just clean that line there. So we've got before and after, looking a lot better. And all right, so as well as that, we can also, if you want to take it to the next level, we can do some burning and dodging as well. So I can bring in my burn dodge actions that you can download those. They're in the gold community, and I might now just bring in some highlights. Let me see. Nice soft brush. 0 hardness. Flow, I might bring my flow down to 5% for this. And I'm just going to just give a little highlight here on each of them. Just make the nails look like nice and shiny. And then I want to just darken the areas around the cuticles as well. Just make sure I've got a soft brush. Just come in and just darken these areas so they look a bit more three-dimensional. Darken the edges. Okay, and you could even go and continue to shape the nails and really go to town on this, but I think that gives you an idea of, oh, hang on, I didn't do this one, so let's just bring in the thumb, edit, as well, that we cleaned up earlier. There we go. Much better. So, got before and after. I think that looks a lot better and a lot neater. All right, so I'll just group those into their own little, and I'll call this manicure. All right, so now we can see on, off. So always a good idea when you're editing your images to try and keep everything as organized as possible. And I like to name each layer and then group them, each sort of thing that I'm doing, into their own little group. Makes it a lot easier to stay on track, especially when you're doing big retouch jobs. And then you always save your edit as a PSD and keep that with all your files, so that if down the track you need to use that image again or re-edit it, it's just going to make life so much easier. All right, well, so when it comes to skin retouching on an image like this, there isn't a lot that I would change. I think that it's got that beautiful newborn skin look, so I don't do a lot. I probably just on another empty layer would come in and again with a brush, set to normal, opacity 100, and flow right down, even maybe 2 or 3%. What I'm going to do is just very lightly brush over some of these areas just to even out the skin tone slightly. There aren't any real blemishes here, and because the image is so lovely and soft, there really isn't a lot. I don't mind the fact that you've got some blue colouring here from the light bouncing off the rug in the skin. I don't mind any of that. I think it's quite natural, and I wouldn't do too much because you don't want the baby to look like it's not real. It's like more like a doll if you go too far. So for something like this, all I would do is I want to just reduce the bluey redness here around the eyes and just soften it a bit, but not too much. So what I would do is I like to sample an area of skin that is a nicer color, so something like maybe here, and you can see that appears there in the foreground color. And then I've got a really nice soft brush, and I'm just going to brush over the top, and all that does is it just cleans it up slightly, so you can see the before and after. And again, this is just a really good way that you can edit images on the run, like in about 5 minutes. Just give it a quick clean up. It just evens out the skin tone, and you're not having to do a whole lot. It's a really good fast way, but try not to go too far with this. And as I said, there is a really detailed tutorial on retouching baby's skin. I'll put a link in so that you guys can find it as well, and if you haven't seen it, but it goes in depth about removing red coloring and things like that. So, but for this, where there isn't a lot that needs to be cleaned up, this is pretty much how I would do it. It's a really simple technique, and I'm just like sampling areas by holding down the Option key on a Mac or Alt on a PC, and just going around and just giving it a little tidy up. Alright, and so there you can see, and maybe just some of these little blotches here. So let's have a look. We've got before and after, and I think that's cleaned it up nicely. And then what I like to do is just reduce the opacity to maybe, I start at 0 and then just move it up, and hopefully that still looks natural. Something about there, I think that works. And if you wanted to, you could also use your dodge burn actions on this just to bring back a little bit of detail. Often when you do something like this overlay, it can flatten the image out. So if you just want to bring back some contrast, you can again just use the burn and dodge and just bring back some of that texture that you might have lost. But I think that's a bit of overkill, really. Just go back on some of the fingers as well. So there we go. Let's have a look. We've got before and after, and that's the skin retouch. Before and after, very subtle, just cleaned it up. Not a lot that needs to be done there.